Hey everyone, welcome to episode 78 of the Total Hockey Training Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Sean Scahan. And before I introduce my next guest, I just want to remind everybody, Total Hockey Training, we're going to be starting our off-season program pretty soon. And so the link's in the bio. You can join for free for 7 days, and you have direct access to me all the time. And I'll help you go through the program. We are doing exactly what I'm doing with my athletes here in Minnesota. So check that out. And my next guest is a good friend of mine, a really hardworking guy that I always had a tremendous amount of respect for, Kurtis Gabriel. About Kurtis, he's from Canada. He played 150, no, 51 NHL games, 153 PIMs, which is remarkable. Third round pick of the Minnesota Wild in 2013. Gabes, how are you, pal? Good to see you.
Namaste, bro. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing very, very well and happy to be here.
Awesome. And just tell the listeners namaste, please.
Yeah, we've all heard it, right? Seen on the wall a yoga class or a yoga teacher saying it, but a lot of people don't actually know what it means. It's not just a greeting, it's a true recognition of the deepest thing possible that when I say that to you and to all your listeners, it's I am understanding and aware that the awareness that I feel that I exist in this body and I'm looking through these eyes and hearing through these ears is the same awareness that you feel in your body that you exist and you experience the world through. So in that way, we are one. And in that way, I never wish any harm on you because you and me are literally the same.
I love that. That's awesome. And I think I've heard it quite a few times, but I never really got into the depth of what it actually means. So awesome.
That's it.
Thanks for sharing that. Hey, so tell the listeners about yourself. Where'd you grow up? How'd you get into the sport and all that kind of, what laid your foundation?
Foundation was sports was religion. Sports year round, every type of sport possible, not just hockey year round.
Love it.
Multi-sport athlete, baseball, basketball, ultimate frisbee, volleyball, everything. And my parents were really into the outdoor summer sports and stuff, but I loved hockey. Growing up just north of Toronto, it's the center of the hockey universe. It was the coolest, most badass, most skilled, most tough. And I just couldn't help but want to play it. And I started at 5 years old, house league for 5 and 6, and then select at 7, and then single A at 8 and 9. And then at 10 years old, my dad said, "You know what? I know you can't make the local AAA team, so we're going to another team, Richmond Hill, 30 minutes south." And I said, "Dad, no way. I'm a single A player. I'd just be happy to play double A." He said, "No, you're good enough." So we went to that tryout, and by the end of that tryout, the coach had known Barclay Goodrow coming in was going to be his top guy. Now he's two-time Stanley Cup champion, and he saw me as right there with him, but he had no idea who I was. So when I made that team, I looked up at my dad and proved him right. And the feeling, Sean, it was just like, this
Yeah,
is what my life's going to be.
love it.
And I literally felt like I was on track to be that hockey player. And then 2 weeks later, my dad took his own life. And that belief that I externalized, that happiness I externalized outside myself was just torn away from me. And I went back to just playing for fun from 10 to 16. And I got angrier and angrier and angrier. Playing single A and double A. And one day my mom just popped her head and she's like, "I know you're about to like retire. You're not going to play anymore. So why don't you go try out for the local junior A team, tier two?" And I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "Why not?" And I'm like, "Okay." And I went and just like that, tried at 10 years old. I went and dominated, but I said, I'm going to do it without my dad. I'm going to finish the dream he started without him, and I'm going to play in the freaking NHL. And I set that in my mind from that day, and I wasn't taking no for an answer.
Wow. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm sorry. I knew that story. Um, and thanks for sharing. So talk about after that aspect then, like talk about how you transition from that to the NHL.
Yeah, well, hey, this is the perfect place to talk about this with you and
Yeah.
your listeners. So, I mean, at 16, when that coach said, "Hey, you can play. We're not going to take you from double A to junior A. Go play major midget triple A for a year and come back." And me and my mom said, "Okay,
Yeah.
what do we do to get better?" We looked online. I had nobody in my life to tell me what to do. So it looked like lift weights, get bigger, stronger, faster, work with a skills coach on the ice, get better at the game, and eat, sleep, breathe, dream hockey nonstop. And I said, "Yep, yep, yep." And my life just changed overnight from video games and parties to just that,
Really?
just that. And I don't, I
That
really want to
7 days
hammer,
a week.
I really want to hammer home to people that like, I'm not like exaggerating, right? Like it was the only thing I did.
Hmm.
And I did miss the most important factor, however, though. And if somebody had told me that up here was everything, I'd probably still be playing in the NHL. But I just went all in those areas, and I rapidly grew as a late bloomer. I still didn't have the physical maturity, but I went from 6'3", 160 the first summer to 6'3", 170-ish. Played AAA, went the next year to back to the junior A tryouts, made the team, and then I got randomly scouted. So I made the junior A team, and they said, go skate with our junior C affiliate, not because you're going to make the team, just for some free ice time because it's expensive. And I said, sure. And I didn't go out there and dog it. I went out there and ripped people's heads off. And I had been told that I wasn't going to make it scoring or skating circles around people. So I was going to have to hit. And if I was going to hit, I was going to have to fight. So I went out there and scored 3 goals, broke a guy's nose and in a fight, my second fight ever. And then I got approached by a scout as soon as I stepped off the ice. He said, "Do you want to come try out for the OHL's Owen Sound Attack?" And I laughed at him because I was like, I hadn't even played junior A yet. I hadn't even played a game
Yeah.
yet. So he's like, "No, I'm serious." And I went, "Okay, if you're serious, I'm serious." And I packed on 20 pounds that summer. I came in, or sorry, I went from 170 to 180. Then that summer I went from 6'3", 180 to 6'3", 200, and I made the Owen Sound Attack as a free agent.
Wow. And what was that like in Major Junior? Was your role defined at that point, Gabes?
Absolutely, it was. There was no way, shape, or form I was making it any other way at that point. And with my mindset of I'm doing this now to prove to my dad he should have stuck around, I didn't care what I had to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And so you kind of had that enforcer role in Major Junior.
Absolutely, from day one.
Now, where's there it's changed. I saw a clip of Gretzky talking about how back in the day the enforcer role was more to protect guys like him. Did you have that responsibility on Owen Sound at the time? Like, did you have like a guy that like had you had to protect in a way? Like, you don't screw with him, or I'm going after your guy.
Well, what was good is that we had Daniel Zweep, who was a bear, 6'5", 230, tough guy already there. So he
Okay.
handled that for the
Yeah.
first year.
Yeah. Okay.
But I knew that I was going to be the incumbent to take that role on. So I got introduced to it slowly. But by my second season, I was now the guy.
Okay. Okay. Did you feel that responsibility on a nightly basis? What was that like?
Yeah. And honestly, I'm sitting here post 137 fights. It would have been 300 plus if they didn't put in fight rules. So my
Hmm.
first season of really fighting the OHL, they put in a 10 fight rule. So I only had 10. I would have had 30 for sure.
Hmm.
And then when I turned pro, they put it in the AHL as well. So that second year, I had trained with Mike Marzin, former NHLer, who now was like a fifth degree Shotokan karate master. And he had trained like Rick Nash and Stamkos and PK Subban a bit to, defend themselves. And I went and worked with him, and all respect to him, it was more mental, and I needed the actual physical training. So I went and got beat up the first 10 times, and it
Hmm.
wasn't fun. I wasn't an impact player. I had gone to the Phoenix Coyotes training camp that summer on a whim from a scout, a flyer, and done really well. And I thought I was going to come back and dominate. And I was so overinflated in my head, and I got beat up by everybody. And it wasn't good, man. I think I lost 9 of 10 fights. And after that year, that coaching staff said, "Hey, Gabe's like, you've gone from the free agent that made it, but now you're going to have to earn it all over again. You're not being an impact player. So you're going to have to come back here a different player for a third year." And I went and dug in that summer.
Now, what do you think in their mind was it by losing nine out of 10 fights, you weren't impactful? Is that what they meant by that?
I had like 16 points on the fourth line, which wasn't terrible for a real rookie season for me because I barely played the year before when the team won the championship, but I just wasn't impacting games. I wasn't shifting momentum. I wasn't being on the forecheck hard. I wasn't getting zone time. I wasn't doing those little things. And then on top of
Okay.
that, wasn't winning the fight. So it was kind of
Yeah.
like a combination. So they told me you have to earn your spot all over again. And I went home and I said, "Mom, we got to go even harder." And I went and trained with Gary Roberts. I
Yeah.
took my power skating to another level. I was on the ice with Stamkos and James Neal and all these guys. And I went and trained with an MMA and boxing coach. And at the end of already 2 a day, I'd go into a hot, humid gym at 4 in the afternoon and do an hour and a half of grappling and boxing. And when I came back to Owen Sound, I was my man weight. I was 6'4", 215, and I was ready to just hurt people.
And did you?
I did. I led the league in fights with 14, win a 10 fight real league, and I
Wow.
think I won like 12 of them against some big names, and that's what got me drafted to you guys.
So I think, the mindset you talk about a little bit, like you knew what your role was going to be and you embraced that and you knew if you were going to make it to the show, you had to embrace that on a nightly basis. And a lot of people don't get that. They think someone like you might be, I don't know, in a nice way, missing a few marbles or something like that, right? But no, but you knew that's what you had to do to get there, and you trained your ass off to do it. And I think that's, another aspect of hockey. Like, yeah, like this, you might not have the hands or the goal scoring ability, but you have this. And it's very important and still today. So I think that's awesome. And but again, going back to the mindset, like every night, knowing like, hey, they got this guy over there, I'm going. Like, what does it take to get amped up to do something like that, night in and night out?
Yeah, I think at the time I would have told you that I did have screws loose, but now that I'm looking back, it's like I had the screws too tight almost. It was like I ha
I
thought
would
I
I
had
would
to,
say that about you. Yeah, knowing you a little bit. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
I had to be, I had to be somebody, and I had to morph into that. I mean, I'm a teacher's kid. I grew up a goody two shoes, perfect report cards. Never been in a fight off the ice. I was
Hmm.
intense. I was passionate, but I turned that anger and that rage into I'm the crazy guy. This is what I do. I walk into the rink that night, and the first person I see who works at the arena sweeping the floor, I'd say, I'm going them tonight. And they'd be like, what? That's what I had to do. I had to tell everybody I was going to do it to go follow up and do it because I felt I was a man of my word. So I did these little tricks to myself to convince myself that I was tough, and then learning to take a punch, learning to handle the adrenaline rush, learning that I wasn't the strongest ever and I had to outlast guys and out technique them and outwill them. So I learned what worked for me. And let me tell you, when I felt good, when I felt like I was a contributing member of the team, when the guys made me feel welcome and respected, I was all ready to drool and fight. But when it was the opposite, when I was struggling mentally, when I didn't feel part of the team, when I was the lowest on the totem pole and people treated me like it, I didn't want to do it.
That's interesting. Did you feel like that maybe when you're playing a team that doesn't have any toughness, for example? Did you feel like this is going to be a skill game tonight and like I'm just going to get my fourth line shifts, get it in, get it out, and get off the ice?
That's what's weird about it, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes, like when you're feeling good, you kind of like that game because you get to go play a bit.
yeah,
But then if
yeah,
you're not feeling good in that game, then you feel useless. It's like it's a very strange thing for people like skill guys or guys with defined roles that play. They know their role is the same every night. But mine could be a 2 minute night where I have a huge fight and the boys love me, or I could have a 12 minute night and I'm not feeling like I'm out there doing anything, or I have a great game. I don't know. It was
yeah,
all over the place.
yeah. That makes a lot of sense. It's interesting. Now, let me ask you this: when you know you're going to go with somebody, like I'll tell you this story. Like I'll never forget when I worked for the Ducks. We had Brad May, who was one of the toughest humans I've ever come across for his size,
Yes.
and he was getting a text that day from Chris Barch, who played for Dallas, and hockeyfights.com was a big deal back then. And he was texting like, Brad, let's go tonight. Me and you, let's get the number one hockey fights. And Brad was telling me like during the fight, Chris Barch was like, keep going. Come on, we can do this, Brad. At the end of the fight, he's like, we did it, Brad. Like, people don't understand. Like, it's not like you don't like each other. It's a job that you have to do. And you got to be mentally tough. But what is that like? I mean, you don't hate anyone you've ever fought in the NHL, right? Well, maybe
I'd
you
say
do.
I'd say deep down you don't, but
Right.
there were fights. I've never had an experience like that. That's super old school. That's crazy.
That was awesome. I'll
That's
never
crazy,
forget that.
right? Like, and Brad May, I've met him recently, and he's just thicker human than me. He's twice as wide as me. He's just his bones are bigger.
And
He's
his
scary.
hands are massive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Chris Barch is a huge guy too, but for me, it was more there were guys that maybe we just had that more respect before and after the fight. But there were guys like Reeves who there was animosity. There was
Yeah.
guys like Curtis McDermott who I had grown up playing with a little bit here in Owen Sound, and then felt like he did some disrespectful things, and then we ended up fighting. So th there was times when it boiled over for sure, and there were grudges that were held. But deep down, like I've been having people on my Fight Plan podcast, I mean, we're all just brothers at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. You're not going to see them out and say, let's go. And people need to know that. And it's interesting because it takes you're going to be a tough individual to do that on a nightly basis, you know? But one thing about you, Gabe, is like you always kept working on your skills. Like I remember, working with the Wild back in the day. I could hear like someone was like, yeah, chopping lettuce down the hallway. I'm like, what's going on? And there you are with your headphones on and just stick handling. And I thought that was just that showed your dedication to the game. It didn't matter what it was, you were trying to get better.
So man, I had to, and ultimately that's what broke down my wrist and it ended up me retiring because I broke it when I was 15, and then I got it sliced by a skate in 2017, and I just stick handled so much because not only did I freaking love it,
Yeah.
I needed to put the time in to feel confident on the ice to make those little plays that kept me getting a job and in this level in this league. So
Yeah.
I had to just, it was reps, it was reps, it was reps, it was reps, whether it was conditioning with you, whether it was stick handling, whether it was in the summer eating, it was just the reps of it. And you had to just love it or you weren't going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can remember defenseman for the Stanley Cup champion Ducks, Joe DePenta, just a steady stay-at-home defenseman. And he would take reps of just chipping it off the glass and out all the time. And other players, maybe more skill, would be like, oh, when I go to practice, I try to shoot the score. And this guy's chipping off the glass. It's like, no, he's getting better at what he needs to do to be successful in the NHL. And everyone's different, and that's awesome. And so when I mentioned that I knew that story about you before, I just want to mention Chuck Fletcher. He was a big, big, big fan of yours, and I remember that. And like, there wasn't too many guys Chuck would Chuck's a former general manager for the Wild, by the way, for the listeners, and just a great guy, one of my top favorite GMs that I've ever worked for. But he had a soft spot for Gabe's, and and I can remember like we'd be on a road trip, and we have a I don't think we had any toughness on the team then, and you just know, hey, we're probably going to call up Gabe's for this game. Whether when you were getting called up. Does that make sense? And so
Absolutely.
if you could elaborate on that, can you talk about that? And what was that like too? Like when you getting called up, that like, okay, you're getting called up to play, I don't know, St. Louis, and they had Revo on the team. Like, talk about that.
Yeah, I mean Chuck too is just I'd watch every single press conference. I'd catch every little word he'd say about me, that teams are calling about me, how much he was high on me. I was using everything to keep me amped up and going. But I remember or Eric Stahl slash Johnny Gaudreau broke his finger the game before, and you guys were going up to Calgary, and I knew I was probably going to come up, and I got called up, and we went on that run of the winning streak, 13 games I think it was, and started in
Yeah,
Calgary. Started in Calgary. I didn't play there. But then we played in Edmonton and I ran over a bunch of people, fought Cassian. We had a big win, and that really started an avalanche of wins where we just went through Toronto and all these different places. And dude, it was at the time, the time of my life. And I thought I made it because I'm thinking you don't change what ain't broken in hockey. You don't mess with the chemistry. It was me, Grayo, and Stewie on the fourth line. We weren't playing a bunch, but we were doing
hmm
our job. And I thought we were going to look good, but then obviously they made the trades for Hansel and White. We knew how that went, but man,
yeah,
I came up and I was just like, bring it on, bring it on, bring on all the monsters.
yeah. I remember that we went, I think 12-0, I think, and lost to I think Columbus.
13-0-1 was the streak.
Yeah, and Columbus was 12-0 as well. And it was funny because we called up Alex Tuck, and he was nowhere near the play here he is now. It's amazing how that kid developed into what he is as well. Just thinking about the old school Wild guys. No, that's great, and that's awesome. It's a great story. And so when one question, who's the toughest guy you ever fought in the NHL?
Well, he's not in the NHL. That's the thing that people always say. Like, yeah, the toughest guys have always been in the minors for me.
Okay.
The toughest guy for me is with hands down. I will, if I had to pick one fighter to fight anybody at any time and my life was on the line, it would be Brett Gallant. I mean, this guy, maybe people don't know him as much. He was in the Ice Guardians documentary. They did a great job having him in there, but 6 foot, 200 pounds from PEI, grew up fighting at the bars. His dad was known as a legendary tough dude, Pinky Gallant, the kind of guys where like you go to the bar in Summerside PI in the summer and you want to see how tough you are just for shits and gigs, you go ask the Gallant boys, hey, which one of you guys want to go out back? And they're like, hey, let's finish our beer, have a chat, and we'll go fight. And those are the kind
Really?
of guys these guys are.
They
Like
actually they actually
they're
do
just
that.
different. They're just different, you
Yeah.
know? So if you watch this guy's fights and his younger brother Alex is still playing, he's like a smaller, slightly smaller version, but Brett he one punched Matt Cassian 6'5", 250. He beat up Patrick Bordeleau 6'6", 240. Like he just is. I rate fighters on three things: strength, toughness, and technique. He was strong enough. That wasn't the thing. He was so tough and technique was so good. Here's the thing about fighting people. Like when you see a lot of hockey fights, guys are throwing off their back foot, they're glancing, they're not truly putting their weight into every punch. But Brett Gallant truly every single punch tried to pull you into the punch and put his whole weight into it. And when you do that, that leaves you susceptible to getting hit the other way and knocked out.
And so
And
he's just following through.
it only happened once or twice to him where he got really dinged back the other way, but he just said, I do not care how big you are. I know I'm tougher than you, and I'm just going to hold on and just lawnmower you. And it's just terrifying. I fought him twice. I was terrified.
Really? And what about the guy in, I want to say Syracuse, Marasti?
Oh yeah, I met him recently actually. His head's like
He
this.
did some training with me when Syracuse was affiliated with Anaheim. And he's pretty tough, right? He was?
He's tough, but in my opinion, he was more of like that Barch May fight where they're like, let's have a good one, and he's
Yeah,
talking and he's Brett Gallant never did that. He tried to kill you every single time. He's trying to take your head off like a piñata.
really.
No, no, like, hey, how are you? Just
Yeah, we're
like
going.
eyes down, you're gonna die.
Wow. That's that's amazing. And so that's just, yeah, it's just there's a whole nother world, it's and it's a fraternity. Like George Peros is running the NHL player safety and he gets a lot of crap. I'm like, this guy was very tough, Princeton graduate, and he never got suspended. And people want to challenge his decisions. Like this guy's who's this he played the game like so professionally, but he's tough. And then one thing too, like a lot of these guys, like it doesn't always end well in a fight, right? I mean, I remember Todd Fedoruk. I saw Boogar break his face here in Minnesota one time, and then I saw Colton Orr got the best of him, but he got the best of guys too. And I remember seeing Georgie go down in Montreal, and it's a no pun intended. It's a tough business, and it's hard. It's hard on these people in their lives, and that's what they get. And it's difficult because they don't get compensated as much as I think they should, right? But
Mm.
do you think unfortunately it's leaving the game?
I mean, frick. Not if Matthew Olivier has anything to say about it. I mean, he's the toughest
Right?
guy in the league. He's arguably one of the best players in his role in the game, regardless of role. He's playing for US at the World Championships, wearing an assistant captain letter. Like he's
Yeah.
him, Tanner Jeannot. You got McBain in Utah. You have a lot of guys that are tough as nails, but they can play. And
Yes.
I think that's what's so beautiful. I think we've had the full arc now. We've had back in the day, 6 teams, you get challenged, you fight, you
Yeah.
chop somebody's head off with your stick. Then it moved through the Broad Street Bullies where let's take advantage of no instigator rule. That was crazy.
Yeah.
Then you went into the instigator 90s, 80s era where it was just the monsters coming in that can't play hockey.
Yeah.
And now we're back to, I think, almost the original days where we have guys who are really tough and can really play. And I like how the OHL and most leagues have limited fighting. The AHL's got a 10 fight rule, the East Coast, so that when guys get up, they have to be able to play, and then they've still had some fighting experience, and then they're set loose in the NHL where there's no restriction. And I think that's what you see. I would like a little more fighting. Like I think the
Yeah.
league should have about 20, not 12, but it's in a good place.
But I also think that's important to say that because it also I've seen teams where you're looking at the lineup for the other team, and you know a guy can fight. You know a guy who can fight, right? You know a guy who can go, and it's like maybe it's not like I don't want to piss him off, but I know he can fight. So does that aura? Is that fair to say?
100%. Teams have auras. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
right now, the Wild, the Ducks, the Bruins, the Canadians, like these teams have auras. Like you're telling me there's a difference between, do I want to go in and play Detroit tonight this past season in their home building, or do I want to go play the Bruins? I'd rather go play Detroit.
yeah, absolutely.
You
Yeah,
know, I'm okay with getting, oh, you know what, Lucas Raymond beat me on a play or he skated past me. I'm okay with that, but I'd rather not get destroyed by Kastelik and Jeannot and then
yeah,
get screwed on.
yeah, exactly. That makes a lot of sense, and those are things that NHL players have to deal with and think about. And it's not just collecting a paycheck and showing up and performing.
No.
There's a lot going into that. Well, Gabes, tell the listeners what you're up to today. I see you doing a lot of I see your reels all the time. Do you have a podcast as well? And talk about what you're doing and what's life been like for you post retirement.
Oh man, it's been a journey. I mean, retiring at 29 with injuries, thinking I was going to be the guy that played in Europe till he was 40, you know, the guy that would have played forever till he's peel me off the ice. But at 29, I have this small part of my body that's unoperational for hockey, and I got to figure out what to do. And I lost my identity, I lost my mind, and I had to go through a real healing journey. So from September 2022 till November 2024, 2.5 years, I was in hell pretty much.
Okay.
Um, in different levels of consciousness, and I believe heaven and hell are not a place you go. They're here right now. And I finally broke through November 6th, 2024. And ever since then, it's just been the passion that I had for hockey that got kind of hijacked by my pain and rage and my trauma inside. That's now been set loose without any pain, rage, and trauma. And it's just, I get to use the platform that I guess I fought for in hockey to now as an in with men, with women, with people in this world who are going through their own identity crises. So that's led to, live streaming every week, 8 to 10 hours, a podcast, the Fight Plan podcast, talking about fights on the ice and in life. Then you got my book coming out on
Awesome.
June 29th,
Awesome.
Hockey Hall of Fame launch event, and then a podcast tour, and then a course for people going through identity crisis, athletes just like I did, the course I needed.
That's awesome, man. So do you take the time to reflect and appreciate on being able to say you played 51 games in the NHL?
Absolutely. I mean, before all that pain and rage, there was still that true love of the game. Now, was it for Ty Domi type play? I liked him, but
Yeah,
it was more like Rob Brindamore, like
yeah.
play hard, be the hardest worker in the room, block the shots, fight when you once in a while get in a scrum. That's what I wanted to be. But when it got hijacked, I became that other thing. So I don't regret a thing. Would I go back and do it again? No, but I don't regret a single thing.
Love it. And that's people need to understand it's not easy to go play 51 games in the National Hockey League and accumulate 151 penalty minutes. That's a lot. So
Hey, I would have had 500 if guys obliged me. I was asking guys every game in that run with Minnesota. Like they,
yeah,
they were
yeah,
like,
yeah.
he's got 5 fights in 13 games. I looked at them. I said, I should have like 20.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks for sharing that. And how can listeners find your content? I know you're on Instagram, but tell us.
Oh yeah, I'm everywhere. If you can't find me, you don't know how to use the internet, just at Kurtis Gabriel, pretty much everywhere. If you type that in, it'll come up on all platforms. The best place is Instagram, and the live streams are a lot of fun. We have a free WhatsApp community that has 125 people and growing that, I'm active in there all day, every day. Cody Bass, former NHLers in there. It's
Yeah,
it's a place where people come for the hockey and the violence, but they stay for the love and the change they make in their lives that we all do together. So that's my passion place. But the book is going to be a huge deal. I think
yeah.
it's going to be
Can't
the most.
wait.
I think it's going to be the most vulnerable hockey book ever put out. To be completely honest, it's gonna rock some people's worlds and some feathers. But that's what my life was.
And that's you as a person too, right? It's I look forward to that. That'd be a good read. So it comes out in June.
Yeah, June 29th. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
But yeah,
man.
you have an inside look into like the guys that played this role with the training you do. You saw how hard we had to push it. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I most guys that did this role were physical specimens and freaks. I had lungs, but I didn't
Yeah.
have the strength that other guys do. But man, the
Right.
work we had to put in with guys like you was crazy.
But I just, yeah, like Kevin Sawyer is a guy I think about. He does TSN, I think in Winnipeg, and he was the first guy I ever like was around who was a tough guy. And he was probably he's probably my size, 6'2", 200, and he would fight the heavies, and he would go after I don't know who the big guys were at the time. I mean, the Wild had the big guy, not before Bugard. The Wild always had massive tough guys, Bugard and John Scott, and this guy. He was probably the biggest guy in hockey. I forget his name. I think he might have passed away too. And Garrett Burnett was a guy I had who was just massive, just human. And but Kevin was like my size, and he'd fight anybody. And I remember him and Aaron Downey going at it my first like game, and I was seeing him like shooting the shit in the hallway. I'm like, oh my God, welcome to the NHL. These guys are like hanging out. Hey, good job, you know. And so I had a lot of respect for guys that did that, and you as well. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate you sharing everything you have.
No,
And this has been great, and it's been great to see you and do this with you. And yeah, namaste.
namaste, bro. I appreciate you too. I appreciate the seriousness you took the job and how passionate you were about the training. It was a lot of fun.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll see you. We'll see you soon, bud.
That
Good
sounds
to
good,
see
my
you,
man.
Gabes. Thank you.
You too.
Have a good one.